That didn't go well, Rube.
Did not go well. It went worse than I anticipated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, me too. But we'll talk about it. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. A lot to go through after the Eagles' wild card loss to Tampa Bay. We're going to talk about Jalen Hurts, his performance, how this might change our view of him. We'll talk about what this loss does to our view of this entire season. We want to talk about Nick Sirianni as he finishes up his first year as head coach. We'll mention the defense, that kind of an up and down afternoon for them in Tampa. And then at the end, we'll get into Dave's positivity corner. We have to have it, especially after a loss like that. But let's start with Jalen Hurts, because you and I have both been impressed by the development we've seen from him this year, but this was bad. It was a bad time for him to have an awful game.
Yeah, it was like all the things, all the concerns that you have about him that have been kind of in and out of his game here and there, all manifested themselves at the same time. Rushing things, throwing into traffic, poor pocket presence, holding the ball too long, throwing behind guys, not seeing open guys. All of it came together. And, by the time he finally – calmed down, settled down. I mean, it was 31-0, and Tampa was just dropping guys back and kind of waiting for the clock to run out. So I kind of discount all that stuff, but it was really disappointing. And we talked about this the other day. Like, if he has a really bad game, how much stock do you put into it? And we kind of agreed, well, look, he got here, he played really well for most of the season. I think we equated it to a class in college where you have a final exam that can only raise your average. You don't have to take it. It's optional. Well, I've got doubts about him. And
it's a lot different when we're in the moment, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Yeah. Because I didn't think he would play this bad. And it was really bad. And I do think he will be this team's quarterback next year, just because I think that this year is going to be about trying to surround him with more talent. I don't think you can find a guy in this draft or in free agency or in a trade or any of that stuff who's going to be that much better than where he is now and where he'll be. But I do think, and look, it's no secret that they're not committed to him after at any point with his contract. So I think next year is his year, but I certainly have a lot more doubts than I had. I wouldn't be honest if I said, oh, it's just one bad game. He did a lot of good things this year, because all the stuff that we saw today, we saw at times during the season. Look, he's 23. It's his first year as a starter. He's going down against a Super Bowl team that won 13 games this year in their stadium. It's a lot to ask, but I expected more.
Yeah, and you're right about the problems in this game are the same problems we've been talking about, really, I mean, from the time he got drafted. It's not even this year. It's like these were some of the concerns surrounding him, and to see them all on a national stage in a playoff game, it's tough. And I thought Tampa Bay had a really good game plan defensively. But their game plan is a game plan that's what I would do against the Eagles. Force Jalen Hurts to beat you with his arm, because I don't know if he can. You take away the run, and that's what teams are going to do to him until he proves that he can win games like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is like your greatest fear. It's like, and this is why I've said all year, you need to be able to throw the ball. I remember I asked Nick about it a few weeks ago. I was like, great, you're running for 200 yards a game, but somebody's going to stop it. Somebody's going to, crowd the box, and somebody's going to stop the run. Can you make enough plays with the passing game to win a game, to be in a game? And I think the answer is pretty obvious today.
Yeah, and look, we know that defense is a handful. It can make a young quarterback look like a young quarterback.
Sure.
So I don't want to just make it seem like it was just Jalen Hurt himself, because that defense is very good, and Todd Bowles schemes up some wild stuff to throw at you, and it worked. It just worked against Jalen Hurts. There were some really bad moments. I mean, the interceptions. I mean, the interception before half, and it was a tough play, but that ball's got to be out earlier.
He can't throw that ball, and he knows that, and he's done this before. And I mean, how do you not know that there's a safety, you know, not too far away, and he just kind of floated the ball out there, and he was too late. I mean, Devontae was open for
Mhm.
for a bit, but guys don't stay open in the NFL for 5 seconds. So yeah, I mean, you would think playing in this is his 16th game, I guess, this year. You'd think he'd be beyond that throw. And I'll tell you what, you throw the touchdown there, it's 17, it's a 10-point game going into halftime. You got some momentum. I'll tell you what,
At least you get points out of it.
you get
You
points
know,
out of it. You're
you
10
got to
points.
at least get a field goal. You got to be. You can make it a 2-score game.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, and then, the second interception, I mean, that was bad, but the first one, that was a real killer. I mean, I thought that the first one and the Rager fumble, we'll get to that, but those are the two plays that to me really decided the game. They were just both killer momentum plays. But that first interception, I mean, that was really the ball game. Let's face it. That was, because your odds of coming back from 17 against that team are very small. But at that point in the game, they still existed. Was still better than 0. But you go to the second half down 17. You get into the third quarter, it's not happening. So they had to make that a 10-point game there, or like you said, at least get points. And the opportunity was there. If he fires it in there, the moment I think the corner fell down, and Devontae was open, fire it, and he didn't. And I don't think it's an arm strength thing. He just floated it there and he threw it too late.
Well, sometimes his mechanics get really wonky, especially on that side of the field when he's throwing to his left.
Yeah.
He ended up his best throw of the game happened to be, or their biggest play. I don't know if it was his best throw, but the one that Quez happened to be a deep ball to the left side of the field, which is rare for him. I mean, because we've seen throughout the year, and defenses see it too. I mean, he's a lot better going right than he is left. And you start to slant your defense that way. You force them to go to that side because that's where a lot of the problems have been.
Yeah. I mean, he said all the right things after the game. He was accountable. He said he has to play better. He said, my third season starts tomorrow. He said all the right things. I just don't, you ask yourself in a moment of honesty, and I really like the kid. I admire him. I appreciate him. I mean, he's such a natural leader. You see, I mean, we were talking to some of his teammates, and they were like in tears for him. And Jordan Mailata was talking about how, just how much he means to all the players, and just because of the way he goes about his business and the leadership. But you ask yourself, can they win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts? And no,
not this version.
Not this version.
I mean, and look, what I will say is there's a recency bias here right now because this is so fresh, but we did see growth from him throughout the year. Now, is it enough growth for you to feel comfortable saying he's going to continue at that rate and get to whatever level you need to be a Super Bowl quarterback? I don't know that answer, and that's a really tough thing to figure out because it's all projection.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, if you look at the big picture, there's a lot to be encouraged by. And look, some quarterback, I mean, Elway didn't win one until he was 38. Kurt Warner he was probably like 33 when he won his grocery store and all that stuff. But, just sitting here today, it's really discouraging. It really is. But, again, it wasn't all him. Guys dropped passes. There were penalties. There were missed blocks. There were missed assignments. I don't think Nick Sirianni had a great game. He basically has Devontae, Goddard, and Quez. He has 3 weapons, 3 guys to throw to. And in the modern passing game, you can't function at a high level with just 3 guys. I mean, you're just so easy to. So they need more weapons. There's certainly a lot of things that can help Jalen Hurts as he goes into year 3 next year, but he's just got to be better. He's got to be able to throw the ball better. And I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if he can do it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, and it's the one thing I do know about this game is it's going to open up the door to a lot of speculation and wondering all offseason. If you thought all the possible rumors or thoughts about the Eagles trading for a big time quarterback were gone, they're back. I mean, they're just back, and we have to. It's something that's going to be talked about all offseason, whether or not they pull a trigger on a trade or a draft pick. It's clearly on the table now, or even if it's not on the table, we're all going to have to think it's on the table.
Yeah, unless Howie or Nick comes out and says he's our guy for next year. But I don't anticipate them doing that. They wouldn't do that this year when we all knew he was the guy. So I don't think they're going to do it, for next year. But you're right, and it's all fair. I mean, they're all fair questions. I do think with another year, if he improves the amount he improved from last year, then you have a pretty good quarterback. And if you get him some help, but sitting here right now on January 15th, I'm real discouraged about that performance, and certainly have doubts about his future.
Yeah,
he's 23, Dave. Also, he's 23. So he's younger than some quarterbacks that are going to get drafted. So he's got quite the head start. And
if we're being honest about him, he's a developmental quarterback. He just happens to be their starter.
Yeah,
there's a lot that he needs to grow. And we'll see if it happens. But overall, this is an awful loss. You come into this game thinking, well, even if they don't win it, you just want them to play a close game, show that they belong in the playoffs. They can hang with a good team, and they didn't. I mean, they scored some touchdowns at the end of the game, or a couple touchdowns at the end of the game to make it look a little closer. But it was a lot like the first game.
Very
against
much.
The Bucs. They're just not in this class of competition right now.
Yeah. I said to Barrett just before the game started, Barrett Brooks, they're either going to win or get killed. So, yeah, it's the kind of game that, I mean, when it was 17-0, it was over. I mean, 17-0, you're just not going to win that game. So, yeah, I agree. I thought if they did lose, it would be close, it would be competitive, and we would come out of here thinking, you know what, that's a hell of an effort. That's a really tough team to beat. It's a really tough place to play. They're the Super Bowl champs. They have the greatest quarterback of all time, all that stuff. I didn't think this was going to happen. This is the worst possible scenario. And you're right. Anything that happened after it was 31-0 is like, I just throw it out. I mean, I don't like that term garbage time. And there were certainly some individual plays where you're like, wow, Boston Scott did that, Kenny Gainwell did that. You feel good about it. But as a big picture, and again, look, it's incredible that they're even here. This is a team that won 4 games last year. But when you win 7 out of 9 and you get the wild card, the expectations change, and you become a different team. It's like they didn't go into this game as a 4-11-1 Doug Peterson 2020 team. They went in as one of the hottest teams in the league. And I think that's what's disappointing is they didn't play the way they've played. Now, granted, they played a better team, but they didn't play well in any facet at all. They didn't play well in any facet for the first 3 quarters, first 2.5 quarters of the game, whatever it was, and the score reflected it. And I don't know. I know a lot of players are talking about how much we accomplished this year and we're so proud and this and that. It's hard for me to look at it that way. Maybe at some point I will. I'm sure I will at some point. It was to go from 2-5 to 9-7. It really is remarkable. It's rare. Nobody does that. But it's hard to feel good about anything after just getting obliterated like that.
Yeah, I get that. I think I'm able to take a step back and realize that I don't want to say they're playing with house money because they came down here to try to win a football game, but I still think that you can feel pretty good about the direction, at least. Maybe you're not feeling good about where they are, but I think the arrow is pointing up. I think we've learned a lot about some players and some coaches. And so I think there's a lot of positives. It's tough after they get their butts kicked on national TV to talk about the positives, but I think that's a fair way to look at it. Is like things did go well to even get their butts kicked in a playoff game. So it doesn't excuse the way they played. They had to play a perfect game to win, and this was the exact opposite. I mean, they were bad in every single phase, and that's discouraging because it's like you're supposed to rise to the stage, and they didn't do that. And I think it's honestly less valuable. I think there's value in the playoffs. I think it's less valuable to lay one like that.
I think that's true. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a good point. And I don't think you learn a whole lot from that. I don't think you take anything away. I don't think you watch that film and say, oh, we can learn from it. I guess the way Jalen says, you just flush it. But it's kind of like reminds me of like an NCAA tournament, like a 2-15 game when a team goes like 26-1, like a mid-major, like Texas Southern, and they win their conference, and they end up playing Kentucky, and they feel so good about it, and they end up losing like 91-58. And they all feel like crap about their season. That's what it's like. I'm sure as time passes, I'll be able to look at what they accomplished this year, and feel like it was progress. It definitely was progress. To go from 4 wins to 9 wins, there's no two ways about it. It's a step forward. They're trending upward. But it's hard sitting here after that slop to feel good about anything, I guess.
Yeah. And we have a lot of podcasts to fill in the offseason.
Yes.
So we'll have time to look back at the season as a whole, because you're right. It's disappointing to see the way they lost this game.
Hey, score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, visit AAA.com/Eagles.
Reuben, Nick Sirianni just finished up his first year as head coach. Overall, I think a pretty good year. But let's look at this game specifically. I think you're a little harder on him than I am for this game. I didn't think he had a good plan, but I thought there were plays to be made that guys just failed. I thought it was more on the execution. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it and see what the plan was. But to me, it felt like the players were more at fault in this game than Nick, at least on offense.
Yeah, I think there was some of that. I just feel like when you look up and they have 12 yards on their first 3 drives and they're already down 17-0, I look at the coach. I look at 7 straight games now. I added up the numbers. Their last 6 games, they've been outscored 49-7 in the first quarter, 49-7. After that, they've outscored their opponents 129-56 in the second through fourth quarters. This is a team that consistently over the last month and a half has been a terrible first quarter team. And I wrote it on Friday. You can get away with that against the Giants or the Jets or Washington. You can't get away with it against the Buccaneers, and they didn't. And the same thing keeps rearing its ugly head, these slow starts. And I think part of that is the coach, A, with his play calling, and B, with his just not having the team ready to play. And I agree with you. There were plays to be made, but I also think, some of those third down calls, some of the outside runs that aren't, they're just not going to work against Tampa. The first 3 drives, the first few third downs, just really set the tone for the offense. I didn't expect a whole lot from the defense. The defense actually played better than I expected, especially after those first 2 drives. I thought the offense was going to be really good today and score, 28-31 points. I really did. I just thought they were going to Jalen was healthier, and it sounds like he might not have been as healthy as we thought. You get Miles back. You have Devontae and Goddard's playing well, all these weapons. And I just thought that offensively, Nick just didn't have them prepared. I didn't like the play calling. I didn't really like anything about what the offense did today. And I'd
agree that I think when I look at this game, at least right now, I'd put it more on the offense than the defense. And that's not to say they all sucked, including special teams.
But I didn't expect the defense to, they don't have the personnel to compete with the Bucs. I thought the Eagles had the offensive personnel to compete with the Bucs.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
The defense, you kind of saw it coming. You got this defense with like one above average player, one elite player, certainly going against the greatest of all time. I didn't expect a whole lot. I didn't think you get 4 sacks. I'll tell you that.
I think Ryan Kerrigan be their best player.
You're just through the looking glass when that happens. But I expect a lot more from the offense. I just thought they looked, that first third down, and I know I think Goddard talked about somebody, it was a broken play kind of, but I mean, the RPOs have become less and less a part of what they do. And on a crucial third down that you really got to convert, it was 3rd and 2. I didn't like the call in the first place. Goddard said it would have been a big run by Hurts. Miles is in the middle of the greatest stretch of his career. I guess they were crowding the box, but it was 3rd and 2. Got to convert those.
Yeah. What'd you make of? I wanted that. It's tough in this press conference because it ends up being a lot like half big picture, half look at this game. And I wanted to ask Nick about it, and I didn't get a chance. But his decision to go for it on it was long. They had 10 yards a game instead of kicking a field goal. That was an interesting one to me. It would have been like a 54-yard field goal.
55, yeah.
55. Okay, 54, 55. Maybe it wasn't even on the table because of the wins, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But that was the one decision in this game that I was like, I wonder if that was the right call. And if you're going to do that, then you have to pick up yards on third down.
Yeah, no doubt.
They did.
I didn't mind it. I thought at that point you're desperate. At that point you gotta pull out all the stops. I didn't mind that one.
Okay. On defense, you're right. They got better as the game went on. They did adjust, but why did it take that long to adjust? Like they came into this game with kind of the same plan, or at least a lot of the staples of the plan the last time.
Yeah, those first 2 touchdown drives for 75, I think 70 yards. Then they had the 2 short field touchdowns, but you're right. You almost felt like the Bucs felt like we have enough points. We're just going to coast in from here.
And they did.
And that's kind of also a reflection on the Eagles' lack of firepower. I think the Bucs really felt confident that the Eagles just weren't going to score, and they did very late or relatively late. But I just don't think they're equipped defensively to play well against this offense, even without Godwin and Antonio Brown. They didn't even have Fournette. All the Eagles' sacks came when Tristan Wirfs, and I give him so much credit for trying to go out there and playing on one leg, but he couldn't walk, he couldn't move. He got like 3 sacks and he came out of the game. They don't create turnovers. They don't make big plays. They just don't have playmakers, and I didn't know how they were gonna. I didn't know how they were gonna stop them. I mean, I picked the Eagles to win 31-30. And I'm thinking, I don't know. Well, it's pretty close on the Bucs points, I guess, but
I got the Bucs points right.
Eagles points. They're just not good enough to without forcing turnovers. They can't win a game. They can't beat anybody without forcing turnovers, and obviously not this team. So I think that's something that they've got to look at personnel wise and just figure out how they can make some more plays.
They need players. They just need players on defense. Yeah, they got to draft players.
And we have plenty of time to talk draft. But I wrote in my 10 observations. I don't care about best player available. I'm going defense in the first round, and I might even go defense in the second and third round because they need players. They don't have any players.
Think about what Dallas did in their most recent draft. That's all they said. We're drafting defense. Our defense thinks we're drafting it, and generally that's not a sound strategy. But if the value lines up at those picks, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, as long as you're not really reaching, and I think where they're picking, and we'll see how it goes, but I think they're going to really have of course, you have to draft the right people. They haven't drafted an elite defensive player in a decade, so it's hard to imagine them going to get 3 of them, but I think they have to try.
At least they ended up in the teens, all 3 picks. They're not in the 20s. They look for a while. It looked like they're all 3 might be in the 20s. At least they're all in the teens now.
Yeah, I think in my first mock draft they were all in the 10s. Then they were all in the 20s. Now they're all in the teens.
You'll take that.
Yeah. So
before we get to the read, I wanted to mention special teams because it's we didn't have it on our list, but they were awful today. It was awful.
Punter was terrible. He had a big punt late, but early in the game. And gosh, I mean, we talked about this. Field position in a playoff game is so important. You can't have your kicker.
Go give Tom Brady a short field, see how that works out.
What do you know? I mean, was it 27 yards? I mean,
something like that. Yeah.
And again, I asked Michael Clay about the punter on Tuesday. Whenever we talked to him, I think it was Tuesday, and he said, "Oh, I'm not concerned about Aaron." Maybe you should have been, because you can't help out Tom Brady, whether it's a 3 and out or a bad punt or missing a long field. I mean, you just can't help him. You can't. I mean, he's hard enough to beat. He's hard enough to beat if he's got to go 75 yards every time. You still can't beat him, but can't do him any favors, certainly. And they just made it easy for him. But obviously, the Rager fumble or muff, whatever you want to call it, was just a disaster. And again, why is he out there?
He shouldn't be out there. Shouldn't be on the team.
Shouldn't be on the team. Shouldn't be out there. Shouldn't be playing. And I mean, I was thinking about just retiring observation number 6, because it's always, why is Jalen Rager on this team? We're just going to retire it and put a plaque up that says Jalen Rager slept here or something. It's awful. And, I don't know if this is coming from Howie or Nick just believes in the kid. I know Nick really likes him and appreciates how hard he works. But my God, how many games does this kid have to lose before you just get him out of here? And, there's a difference between being a guy that doesn't help you win. There's guys on this team that don't help you win. He helps you lose. He helps you lose when he's out there. He makes plays that lose games. Why was he playing, for crying out loud? You knew, and then you try to make up for it by throwing that stupid horizontal, let's get the ball in Rager's hands and make a play. He just goes for minus 3 yards every single time. I don't think he's a bad kid, but he's like the worst player I've ever seen. He can't return punts. He can't run on jet sweeps. He can't catch the ball. He can't run patterns. Why is he here? Well,
we all know why he's here.
He's here because he's a first round pick.
Yeah, and he's a negative player. You're right. He hurts you more than he helps you. And even if he didn't help you, you'd be like, all right, but you're right. He makes you a worse team. And he's taking up reps. He's, and you start to realize, like last year, I was really questioning Dave Phipp for putting Greg Ward back there. I figured get some explosivity out of that position. Put Rager back there.
Explosivity.
That's a
explosion.
Word. Explosivity is a word.
No, it's not.
I'm looking it up.
There's no such noun as explosivity.
The property of being explosive.
You're lying.
No.
All right.
It's right here.
Explosivity.
Right here in this dictionary that might not be a real dictionary, but but anyway, like
Miriam Zangaro's.
You want to have someone who can catch the ball. It's a pretty important step, and at least Greg Ward can catch the ball. It's troubling because it's just if they follow the way they handled J-Jaw, he's back next year. But I just don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can look at the rest of your team and talk about merit and keep this kid on the team.
Yeah, and
don't you start losing credibility after a while?
Yeah, you do. And two things. First of all, Nick did say that Greg Ward would have been out there, but he was having, what does he say, back spasms. He said he would have. But why would it have taken 18 games to get him out of there? It's not like this is anything new. Yeah, we would have made a change. Well, why didn't you make it in September or October? But yeah, the other thing is it really restricts the quarterback. I mean, Jalen Hurts can't throw to the ball to Jalen Rager. It's like giving up a play.
And even though Quez had the long catch today, there were a few on that one deep ball. He just stopped running. I don't know if that was on. I don't know if you could see it on TV. Yeah. He just stopped. He just slowed down. Yeah,
look, Quez is fast and he's got something to his game, but you need a WR2. I mean, you need a WR2, and whether it's a veteran, I don't, because I'm drafting defense in the first 6 rounds, so I don't think I'm going to find a receiver. So there's going to be veterans available. I think that's what they need. But that's a story for another pod. But I don't know if I've ever – look, the Eagles have had really bad players. They've, John Harris and some of the first-round picks just have been awful. But, like even Freddie Mitchell, man, 4th and 26, like, as bad as he was. I mean, Nelly, as bad as he was as a first-round pick, and he was Chips, not Howie's, but Super Bowl, man, he answered the bell. I don't know if I've ever seen a player as damaging to this team as Jalen Reagor. They have to cut him. They have to.
I don't think they will.
Nissan just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever. Have to. With their most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup, the choice is all yours. Now get great offers across Nissan's full line. Shop your local Nissan store today and nissanusa.com.
All right, Positivity Corner. Let's try to keep it to this game. I think that's a fair way to do it. All right? Do you agree with that?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Why don't you go first? Do you have one?
Yeah, well, yeah.
There aren't many.
I mean, I think Kenny Gainwell, look, I know it's garbage time, whatever you want to call it, end of the game. And I will reference, really every time he's gotten a chance to play this year, he's made some plays and he can catch the ball. That was a great effort just to get into the end zone. I know it didn't matter at that point, but there's something there. And I like him and I like his game. And yeah, I had a few drops this year, but a rookie 5th-round pick. I think there's been some games he hasn't been in the rotation. There's been some games he's been inactive. Some games he just hasn't really played much. But I'd like to see him be a regular part of this offense next year. I don't think Jordan Howard will be here. I'd like to see Gainwell have a bigger role and a more consistent role. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been a big fan of his for a while. I thought he would have a bigger role this year, actually. But we'll see. Next year he should. I mean, he's – and especially in this offense, with that, we'll see what the line looks like coming back. But it should be a pretty athletic line, and they have the ability to get it in front of screens and stuff. So, I like him a lot. I'll give you Devontae Smith, and I know the negative part is that it took them so long to get him involved. But he's a player. He's very good, Rube. I know it didn't matter, but that catch on the 2-point conversion is unreal. It's unreal what he can do, and it's just so much fun to watch an Eagles receiver with that type of ability because it's been a while. It really has. It's been a while since who's the last receiver they had that would make spectacular plays?
Macklin in 14. That was 7 years ago. He had 1,300 yards. He had a really good season. But yeah, this
and that's not like taking anything away from Alshon's Super Bowl year. He was fine, but he didn't make catches like this.
Yeah, and he was also an older guy at that point, and he was kind of declining right after the Super Bowl. But I mean, certainly the catch he made in the Super Bowl was spectacular on a bad shoulder. But as far as a young guy, yeah.
But consistently, it feels like every week Devontae makes a catch that makes you go, "Whoa!"
It's true.
Look at that.
And it took him so long. He ended up with 11 targets, but it took so long to get him involved. That's off the topic of Positivity Corner. So
sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Do you have another positivity?
There's not a lot. I will say, I did think the D line as a group played better than I expected without Josh Sweat. You guys know Josh Sweat had a very serious medical issue. Didn't play, was inactive. Without him, they had no edge rushers, and Kerrigan had a sack and a half. And granted, it was against a guy who was playing on one leg. I thought Barnett played pretty well in what might be his last game as an Eagle. Hargrave had a good game. I thought the front. I mean, the only way. Look, if you blitz Brady, you will lose. You will lose the game, and their only hope is to get pressure from their front. And it took a while, and by the time they started getting it, the game was pretty much lost. But I'm reaching here, but I did think the D-line, and they stopped the run as well. I think the Bucs had a 17-yard run on their first carry, and they finished with 90 yards and a 3.1 average. So they did a good job against the run. I thought the front four was good considering no Sweat.
Yeah. The whole time you were talking there, I was trying to think of another one, and I don't know if I have one. I'll tell you this. I had dinner outside last night. That was nice. I enjoyed that.
That's positivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
There's not a lot. I don't think I have anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, defensively, linebackers, secondary, no. O-line, No, Kelsey, couple penalties.
The
No.
one holding was.
Yeah, it was ticky tack. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, offense. I mean, Goddard made some catches. I think he finished with 90 yards. We also had a bad drop. He was okay. I still he's going to have a 1,000-yard season next year. But yeah, I got nothing.
You see,
else.
Mama Kelsey. Kelsey's
No.
mom was here in Tampa, and she was flying to the Kansas City game so she could watch both kids in the same day.
Oh wow, that's like when I saw the Pretenders at a free at noon in Philadelphia, and then that night in Seattle. I think we took the Uber to the Triple in Seattle. I saw James McMurtry that night in Seattle. Saw 2 concerts, Pretenders in Philly, James McMurtry in Seattle on the same day.
I did something similar once. I was in the Atlantic Ocean, flew west Pacific Ocean.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you swim in both oceans?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I would like one day to swim in all 5 Great Lakes on the same day.
Is that doable?
Why not?
I don't know the geography.
How did Positivity Corner turn into swimming in the Great Lakes? Anyway,
I don't know.
We should probably wrap this up. Rager.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing before we stop, and you alluded to this earlier. The season's over, and it was a disappointing ending, but Dave and I are here for you throughout the offseason. I mean, throughout free agency, which is only a couple months away, the draft, OTAs, we got you. We'll be here doing our thing, and we're happy to have you guys along.
Yeah, thanks for listening all season. It's been a fun season. It really has.
It has.
Yeah, if you enjoy the podcast,
it doesn't feel like it right now.
If you've listened all season, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. The next pod will kind of take a broader look back at the season that was. This one stings right now. I get it, but we'll talk to you soon. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. For Reuben, I'm Dave. Take care.